in your gut as you watch this. And scientists have just found something that changes how we understand anxiety entirely. Some of those bacteria are making your anxiety worse. Others are actively protecting you from it. And the most disturbing part? You have no idea which ones you have. 2 peer-reviewed studies, published in 2024, used one of the most rigorous methods in modern genetics to prove this is not just correlation. It is causal. Your gut bacteria are not just responding to your anxiety, they are helping to cause it. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly which bacteria are involved, how they get a signal into your brain, and what the science currently says about whether this can be changed. Before we go further, because this is curious and verified, here are the sources. The first study was published in Frontiers in Microbiology in April 2024 by researchers at Jinan University in China. The second was published in Medicine in September 2024 by researchers at Southwest Medical University. Both used a method called Mendelian randomization, and in a moment, I will explain exactly why that matters. Both links are in the description. Everything in this video comes directly from these papers. Now, let's get into it. For most of human history, anxiety was considered a brain problem. Something went wrong in the mind. Treat the mind. Fix the anxiety. But over the past decade, a different picture has been forming. Researchers kept noticing the same thing. People with anxiety disorders showed consistently different gut microbiome compositions compared to people without them. The bacteria in their digestive systems were different, but a correlation, however consistent, does not tell you which came first. Does anxiety disrupt the gut? Does the gut disrupt the brain? Or is something else causing both? This is the question both studies were designed to answer, and the method they use to answer it is one of the most powerful tools in modern epidemiology. It is called Mendelian randomization. Here is why it matters. Your genes are fixed at birth. They cannot be changed by your diet, your stress levels, your sleep, or your environment. Certain genetic variants reliably predict which bacteria will be more or less abundant in your gut. If people who carry those variants, people who are genetically predisposed to have more of a specific bacterium, also show higher rates of anxiety, that is not a coincidence. That is a causal signal. You are using genetics as a natural experiment that has been running since birth. The first study analyzed genetic data from the Microbiology Consortium, 18,340 individuals, and cross-referenced it with anxiety disorder data. The second used 3 separate large-scale databases, including the UK Biobank and data from the Psychiatric Genomics Consortium, to replicate and extend the findings. What did they find? Both studies identified specific bacterial genera that showed causal relationships with anxiety disorders, not associations. Causal relationships. The first study found that certain bacteria, including genera from the Lachnospiraceae family, showed protective effects against anxiety. Higher levels of these bacteria were causally associated with lower risk of anxiety disorders. Other genera showed the opposite relationship, causally associated with increased anxiety risk. The second study identified specific taxa whose genetic predisposition toward higher abundance was linked to greater susceptibility to both anxiety and depression. And critically, the reverse analysis also held. Genetic predisposition toward anxiety causally influenced the composition of gut bacteria in return. This is the bidirectional relationship. Your gut is influencing your brain. Your brain is influencing your gut at the same time, through your entire life. So how does a bacterium in your gut send a signal that affects your brain? The first study points to a pathway called the microbiota gut-brain axis. This is not a metaphor. It is a physical network. The vagus nerve, running from your brainstem to your abdomen, carries bidirectional signals between your gut and your brain. Gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters and neuroactive compounds directly. Approximately 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut, not the brain. Gut bacteria influence how much tryptophan, the amino acid required to make serotonin, is available for conversion. They also produce short-chain fatty acids that can cross the blood-brain barrier and influence neuroinflammation, the same inflammatory pathway we covered in our episode on anxiety and the immune system. And they regulate the stress response system itself, influencing how strongly the HPA axis, the hormonal cascade that releases cortisol, responds to perceived threats. Your gut is not a passive digestive organ. It is an active participant in your neurochemistry. Here is where the first study adds something genuinely new. The researchers didn't stop at identifying which bacteria were causally linked to anxiety. They then tested whether neurotransmitter-associated metabolites, the chemical compounds produced by gut bacteria that are involved in serotonin, dopamine, and GABA pathways, explained the relationship. They used multivariable Mendelian randomization to adjust for these metabolites. And even after adjusting for diet, alcohol consumption, and lifestyle factors, the causal links between specific bacterial genera and anxiety remained. This means the bacterial effect on anxiety is not simply explained by what you eat or how you live. Something in the genetic architecture of your microbiome is directly influencing your risk of anxiety, independently. Now, a critical eye. Both studies have important limitations. Mendelian randomization is powerful, but the genetic instruments used as proxies for bacterial abundance are not perfect measurements of the microbiome. The gut microbiome is extraordinarily complex, hundreds of species, thousands of strains, constantly shifting. Reducing this complexity to individual genera captures part of the picture, not all of it. Both studies were conducted primarily in European populations. Whether the same causal relationships hold across different ethnic backgrounds, diets, and environments remains an open and important question. And neither study tells us how to act on these findings. The research identifies causal signals. It does not yet identify clinical interventions. Microbiome-targeted therapies for anxiety remain an active but early area of research. Probiotic trials exist, but the evidence for specific formulations targeting specific anxiety disorders is not yet robust. The researchers are clear about this. These are mechanistic findings, not treatment protocols. Let's bring this back to where we started. 38 trillion bacteria living inside you, right now. 2 studies, using genetic data from tens of thousands of people, found that specific bacteria have a causal effect on anxiety risk. Not a correlation, a causal effect, confirmed by genetics, replicated across multiple databases. The gut-brain axis is not a wellness concept. It is a biological reality, with a mechanism, with specific bacteria, with measurable effects on your brain. The story of anxiety, the story of what causes it, what maintains it, and what might change it, is not finished. And it turns out a significant part of that story may have been living in your gut the entire time. The question worth sitting with is this: if the bacteria in your gut are influencing your brain, and your brain is influencing your gut, what does it mean to treat anxiety as though it starts and ends in the mind? Leave your answer in the comments. Both studies are linked in the description, peer-reviewed and free to read. As always on this channel, the source comes first. Subscribe if you want more, and we will see you in the next one. Sources for description: Study 1, XU, MM, Q, WH, Ma, QY, U, ZY, Yang, WM, Hu, TN, Guo, Y, and Chen, XY. Improving Precision Management of Anxiety Disorders, a Mendelian randomization study targeting specific gut microbiota and associated metabolites. Frontiers in Microbiology, Volume 15, April 9, 2024. https doid.org 103389 MySP 2024 1380912 Study 2 Fan T, Li L, and Chen Y. Causal relationships between gut microbiota and depression-anxiety disorders, a 2-sample Mendelian randomization study. Medicine 10336 E39543, September 6, 2024. Chatsos.org 10.97 MD 0003943.